What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Lightning Snow back today with another video. Today I got my good friend Daigo Knight back today with his say everybody.
Hello everybody, what's up?
Today we're gonna be doing another battle of the favorites. We got Obito and Itachi. Who wins most out of the timeline? So today we're gonna do about a few different versions of each character and pit them up against each other to see who does better throughout the timeline. Up first we have Obito with the yellow mask. We're doing two separate versions of this character. We're going to do one with the Nine Tails and one without the Nine Tails. Now, initially, we had a different version of this fight going in, but Daigo actually brought up a good point that I had not thought about. Daigo, you want to...
Yeah, and that's going to be a live Itachi versus him, like the Akatsuki version of him.
Yes.
And the point is, even if Obito has the Nine Tails available to him, which might seem like a very massive advantage, actually, Itachi has Amaterasu, which is the best possible counter against a large beast like the Nine Tails. We saw how Amaterasu was effective against the Eight Tails, which is the second strongest tail beast, and I don't see it being any different against the Nine Tails here. It was just a couple of seconds for the Dark Flames to engulf the Eight Tails completely, and he only survived because he could substitute, but the Nine Tails wouldn't really have a Jinchuriki here to do the substitution for the Nine Tails. It's really tough. I think Itachi can handle the Nine Tails somewhat easily.
I mean, like, if for y'all thinking that we're giving that like too much credit, I mean, I can't see of a way that the Nine Tails would. I mean, like, yeah, the Nine Tails would still live, but it would be removed from the battlefield at the very least. Because I can't think of a way that it survives an Amaterasu. Because, like you said, like maybe if Obito can like, you know, subconsciously control the Nine Tails and get it to substitute, but like I've never seen that kind of thing happen with the Nine Tails. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it's difficult because the Nine Tails is too big to dodge an Amaterasu, just like any other large summon. And you could maybe even say the Nine Tails can withstand Amaterasu for a while and still fight, while burning, but it's gonna be taken out of the battlefield eventually. And Itachi would probably go for the Nine Tails first. Right? It's a big threat. Like let's deal with that first.
Well, even if you think you're getting too much credit, like Obito also wouldn't know about Amaterasu. We're doing this in canon, so like he wouldn't have any knowledge of how what Amaterasu is and how it works. So Obito would be completely taken off guard by it. So yeah, like I think it's totally within the realm of possibility. So if that happens, then honestly that version just already done with, and now we go on to the other version that we were going to talk about, which is Yellow Mask Obito, which versus Alive Itachi 1v1. And this one's actually different than most people think. I think most people would probably go with Obito, but I don't know. Itachi does a pretty good job in this fight, I feel like. Even with like no knowledge of how Kamui works, we saw that Minato was able to figure out within seconds, and to be perfectly frank, I think Itachi and Minato like are relative to each other in terms of intelligence. Some would argue that Itachi's smarter. I personally would probably go with Minato.
I would probably go with Itachi. I would say Itachi is smarter than Minato, but they're always paired up against each other when you talk about the biggest geniuses of the Leaf Village, so it's fair to say that Itachi would come up with a counter as well, just like Minato did.
Yeah. I mean, even if you want to go off like the movies, whatever, the Road to Ninja, like Itachi, the other version of Itachi literally was like starting to figure out how Kamui works anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's true. He's like, oh, I can't hit you physically, so let me try something else.
Yeah. So I think it would take no time really for Itachi to figure out how Obito's Kamui works. Perfectly honest, Daigo brought this up to me. Like if Obito attempts to suck Itachi into Kamui, like Itachi could just summon a Susanoo like immediately.
Yeah, it's instant.
It would probably just knock. Yeah, it'd probably just knock Obito back a good bit. I mean, so
that happened in the fight against Danzo when Sasuke was fighting against him. He just activates the Susanoo and Danzo's like blasted out of his melee range, and he's also hurt by it. So it could be a problem for Obito because he has to materialize to actually suck Itachi into the Kamui dimension. And like, let's be real here. Sucking people into the Kamui dimension is the only thing Obito in that particular time of his character had to do in the fight. He didn't have anything else.
Yeah, and he's not as experienced with Kamui also. Like, yeah, he's got a good handle on it, like way more so than he did against the Blood Village, but like other than that, like he's not as proficient with it as he was when he's in the Orange Mask. So yeah, I mean honestly,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
there's another problem too, because this Obito, like, I'm not saying he's dumb, but he's not the most intelligent guy there is. Because in the fight against Minato, and bear in mind, Minato was his sensei. He was his student for who knows how long, like years. And obviously Obito knew everything Minato could do, right? He probably saw him using the Rasengan. He obviously knew he had the Flying Raijin. And, okay, they're fighting against each other. Minato tosses a kunai. Obito phases through the kunai. And Obito knows that kunai has a Flying Raijin mark. And then he doesn't do anything when the kunai is behind him. Like, isn't it kind of obvious that Minato is going to teleport to that? Obito knew his capabilities, so it's not like, oh no, I didn't know he was capable of doing that. It's crazy. So if he couldn't come up with a counter for that basic strategy that Minato used, I mean, Itachi's gonna come up with even more elaborate things, I would say. So I don't see Obito doing very well here.
I'm about to say, because even if we exclude Amaterasu with, like, let's say that if it is in the chronological order in this fight, and say that Amaterasu is something that Obito does see prior to him getting the finishing blow, like, he doesn't know what Tsukuyomi is. So, I mean, and if we're obviously giving Itachi the Totsuka Blade, he's obviously not going to know what the Totsuka Blade is. So if he can get a quick, like, poke on Obito, who knows? Maybe he could get it. But I think Tsukuyomi is probably going to be the best bet, if not Amaterasu. Because, like I said, Obito is not going to know what Tsukuyomi is. He may not even know that Itachi's proficient with Genjutsu in the first place. So, I think Obito's a lot more susceptible to losing here than Itachi is. I don't know how you feel, Daigo.
And if Itachi figures out how Kamui works, he can try and force Obito into absorbing one of his shadow clones and then attack from within the Kamui dimension, just like Kakashi does in the Arc. Which would be very effective, and then Obito would be forced to either expel the Shadow Clone out of the Kamui dimension or not phase through anything, which would be also problematic.
So with this one, I'd say that Itachi wins this one about a good 8 to 9 out of 10 times. Either version, honestly. Like, with the Nine Tails, he does have a little bit more trouble to deal with, but if he's quick enough to land a clean Amaterasu on it, then he doesn't really have much to worry about as far as Nine Tails. So I'd probably give, like, this one the same amount. Like, both cases, honestly, the same amount.
Yeah, I'd say probably. Obviously, having the Nine Tails is better than not having it, because, like, even in the beginning of the fight, before Itachi used the Matarasu, he can try to do something, but I think Itachi has a very high chance of winning this fight, as you mentioned.
So now we're going to go on to the Orange Mask Obito, the one that we predominantly see in the series, versus Alive Itachi again. And this one's a lot more grounded. I think this one's more of a toss-up than any of the versions, personally, to me. But it's still a pretty good fight. And this thing, like we said earlier, like we mentioned, like, knowledge is going to be a thing, right? Because both these characters are going to have pretty much full knowledge. I mean, I guess you could maybe argue a couple things that they wouldn't know about, like, specifically, but I mean, because, I mean, Itachi did still think this was Madara, not Obito, but I mean, I'm assuming that Itachi's seen this Obito fight at least a few times, so he's probably aware of how Kamui works anyway.
Yeah, I'd say Obito would have more knowledge on Itachi than Itachi would have on Obito, but still they would have a decent amount on each other.
Yeah. And due to that, a lot of what Itachi has probably won't catch Obito off guard. Like, I know that's, like, maybe highballing Obito, but like Daigo mentioned earlier, like, the earlier versions of Obito wasn't that smart, but this one has, like, 17 plus years of experience and knowledge under his belt. So, and again, knowing what Itachi has in the arsenal is going to be a problem for Itachi. So, like, we agreed that, like, Tsukuyomi may or may not land, especially if Obito goes in knowing that it's probably going to be a factor. Then I would honestly assume that Obito is prepared for that, and wouldn't
look into his eyes.
I know, like, like, I know it's a cop out answer, because a lot of people just argue, like, oh, you can't just assume, like, people wouldn't look an opponent in the eye, but Obito's meticulous, man. Like, he's not dumb. So I feel as though he probably wouldn't go for it, you know what I'm saying? So,
and even if it lands, there's a high chance that Obito breaks out of it, because he's a very proficient user of Genjutsu. He has a Mangekyo. So these are two of the necessities that you have to break out of Tsukuyomi. Maybe he can't, but
Not only-
there's a chance he can. So it's not a guarantee.
Not only that, but I brought up to Daigo earlier that it's a possibility. It's kind of headcanony, but I think it's worth bringing up. Is that like we agreed that like having Hashirama cells does amplify to some extent, you know, Obito's visual prowess in some kind of way. I mean, it allows him to keep using Kamui relentlessly.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that it just enhances visual prowess, like overall. Like it might enhance Obito's visual defense, if that makes any sense. It might boost his immunity to Genjutsu. It might help his Sharingan overpower Itachi's. I know it's like a big headcanon thing, but I think it's worth bringing. So, but I guess what Itachi does still have going for him is his defense. If Obito tries to suck him in initially, like he can still use the Susanoo, but I mean,
he's gonna
that
deny
point-
the Kamui suck for a while here, because up until he has chakra, he can still keep on activating the Susanoo, denying Obito to touch him, and
Yeah.
it'll be a problem because Obito doesn't have much else to do in the fight. I mean, it's gonna use the fireball jutsu or anything like that. I don't see him doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. No.
In that particular case, but when it comes to a battle of stamina between the two, Itachi trying to use the Susanoo and fend off Obito's attempts to suck him in, Itachi's gonna lose. Like, people underestimate the amount of chakra Itachi has. He's not like chakraless. The fight against Sasuke is a point in his favor because it's pretty long and he uses a lot of jutsus, but obviously Obito has more chakra than him, and the Susanoo is more taxing than Kamui, especially for Obito, who has Hashirama cells.
I mean, don't get me wrong. This Itachi, like, if we're doing this a hypothetical healthy, and Daigo, I don't know how you feel, but personally, whatever, I try to make a reference point to how long Itachi could last in a fight with terms of chakra reserves and, you know, Sharingan use. I always try to give it to like a reference of 5 Kage Summit Sasuke. Obviously, like, you know, a couple
I think that's
pegs
fair.
above that.
I think that's fair. He would be,
You know what I'm saying?
he'd be
'Cause
more powerful,
Sa-
but I think stamina-wise, they would be comparable.
Yeah, because Sasuke was lasting a good bit that day.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest, he was doing pretty good. So
Yeah,
I
he
think
was
it's- I think it's a
healed by
fair thing.
Zetsu and then by Karin, but he does last
Yeah.
a while before he's healed by Zetsu.
Yeah. So as far as like Sharingan use and like chakra durability, I think that's a good reference to use. So like Itachi could last a while for sure, but again, in the battle of attrition, Obito just, I don't know, I feel like Obito doesn't have much to worry about because again, like Tsukuyomi is possibility, but I don't think it's likely hitting Obito.
Yeah.
Amaterasu, I don't think is going to be hitting him because if Obito can dodge a point-blank attack from the Raikage, who dodged a point-blank Amaterasu being shot at him, I think it's more than likely. Especially, again, if he knows that Itachi has Amaterasu, I just don't think it's going to land. So,
And he
like,
can also see
Itachi's best-
Itachi building up chakra in his eye before the Amaterasu is used, so he can just prepare himself and phase through.
So Itachi's best bet is going to be the Totsuka Blade, and like we established, like Obito could like just walk into the Susanoo and just absorb Itachi. I mean, let's just be honest; he could just phase right through the Susanoo,
Yeah.
worst case, and then just
It would be weird because for Itachi to counter that, like Obito enters his Susanoo, he would have to deactivate his Susanoo and reactivate the Susanoo so that he can expel Obito again. And we don't know if there's a cooldown between usages of the Susanoo. If that's the case, then Itachi is kind of screwed. But even if that's not the case, it still spends a lot of chakra, and it's going to tax Itachi a lot. I don't even see the Totsuka Blade hitting it at all. I mean, Obito
I don't
can
either.
see through it, unless if you really highball Itachi and say that the Totsuka Blade ignores Kamui, because we saw it kind of ignoring the Preta Path, for instance. It absorbed Nagato, and Nagato couldn't absorb the Totsuka Blade, so it means that the Preta Path cannot absorb it. But, like, would
Yeah.
it catch Obito in another dimension? I mean, I don't think so, but
that's the thing. Is like the sword isn't like the sword itself is in the same planes, and
Yeah.
like when Obito Kamui's himself, he's leaving the plane. So like I feel like it's like it shouldn't work that way, but I do see your point though. It's like it's a definitely on the table possibility that like Totsuka Blade can just negate Kamui. That's a stretch. I feel like that's
Oh,
like
yeah,
one of
it's
the
a
things we
big
have to try to give
stretch.
Itachi. Yeah, we have to try to give Itachi something because I just feel like Itachi's the underdog in this fight. So
there's also Izanami, but Obito knows what Izanagi is because he has access to it, so it's very safe to assume that he would know what Izanami is too. And Izanami is a very difficult jutsu to set up because there's all those steps that you have to fulfill, that cycle, and then trap the person in the cycle. And Obito would see what Itachi is doing if that's what he's planning to, and he would take the proper measures to counter Izanami.
Yeah, true. I mean, honestly, like we've only seen, aside from the filler like episodes they had in the anime about the past Uchiha being caught in Izanami, we've only seen like one actual person be caught with Izanami, and that was a non-Uchiha. So
Yeah.
like it's definitely safer to assume that like an actual Uchiha would probably more likely to catch on what's going on. So. Yeah, I honestly, I love Itachi, but I don't know. I think Obito's got this one in the bag.
Yeah.
Especially, again, having knowledge of what Itachi's capable of. I mean, I still think Itachi gives him a good fight, but I don't know.
It wouldn't be easy. Like, Obito definitely respected Itachi. People say that he feared Itachi a lot, and that's why he didn't do things against Leaf Village, but it was more of a, well, let's not, tickle the beast here.
Cause problems.
Because Itachi can be problematic in several ways. It's not just the problem of fighting against him that Obito would have to deal with. But still, he definitely respected Itachi's power.
I like maybe he was a little bit uneasy about fighting the guy, but like I don't think he was like deathly scared. Like I'm sure he was still confident that he could take him like one way or the other. So, I give this one to Obito about 7, 8 out of 10 times. I think that's a fair one because again, like Obito can just outlast. I mean, through attrition at the very least, he can outlast Itachi. I feel like. So now we're gonna go on to a different section of this one. We're gonna do White Mask War Arc Obito versus Edo Itachi, and we're gonna, like with the Yellow Mask, we're gonna do 2 separate versions of this one specifically. We're gonna do Obito without the Jinchuriki and Obito with the Jinchuriki. We'll do the with the Jinchuriki first because I feel like that's a little bit easier to go ahead and run through. Even with Edo Itachi, I think Edo Itachi just gets overwhelmed. Yes, he has Amaterasu, and me and Daigo kind of were like unsure if like we should do the Biju forms or the Jinchuriki forms. I personally think Obito would just, the smarter move would be for the Jinchuriki forms because
or version 2,
reasons.
like he could advance them into version 2, but using the big Biju forms would be kind of dumb because of Amaterasu. Like theoretically, Itachi could spam Amaterasu here non-stop because it has infinite chakra in the Edo form, so he could essentially hit all the tail beasts pretty quick. But if they remain their normal states, I think they have pretty decent counters for Amaterasu. For instance, Han blitzed KCM Naruto, so he probably has enough speed to dodge an Amaterasu. And other characters have ways to block it, like Yagoro has that weird mirror-looking thing that can essentially produce a clone of what's targeting him. That could probably block Amaterasu too. But the big beasts would be vulnerable to it, so... Yeah,
like all together, the Jinchuriki just have so much hacks because of their abilities, and
they share field of view.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Obito, who is like literally just sitting back, at the very least, and just waiting at any moment to just capitalize on a moment where he can suck Itachi in or steal his soul. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I know Itachi could like make some clones too to like even the odds a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, like he still gets overwhelmed because of like the tools that Obito has at his disposal, and so this version, like you said, there's just so many abilities that Itachi has to worry about, like from the Jinchuriki themselves, plus again Obito with the Rinnegan. So in this version, I think I give it to Obito. Like,
I'd say he probably takes some of the Jinchuriki with a Totsuka Blade or
for
with
sure.
other means, but he doesn't win this fight, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I don't mean to downplay Itachi, especially Edo Itachi. Like, so don't mistake me. Like Obito still has a tough time getting the kill on Itachi, but it's just really tough for him to do so. So I'd give this one to Obito about 7 or 8 out of 10 times.
I'd give it even more. I'd say 9 to 10 to 10 out of 10 times.
I try not to sleep on Itachi. I'm not saying that you are, but I have a reputation of not giving Itachi enough credit. So I try to do my best for this one. So now we're gonna do the version without the Jinchuriki 1v1, and it is a more grounded. I'll give you this one. I think this one I would actually love to see be put to the anime. Believe it or not, like I would love to see this happen. So if anyone's out there is good at doing fan animations, by all means make one, because this would be actually a fun fight to see. Itachi gives Obito a good bit of trouble because again he could just spam his abilities on repeat, and with Itachi knowing a good bit of the Rinnegan's abilities, I don't know if he knows every single ability, but I think he knows a decent enough amount. Like since he knew Pain and he knew Nagato. I think he just has surface level knowledge. Plus, he has knowledge of Obito's abilities. I think he'd be aware of what to look out for going in. Daigo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
how you feel about that.
Obito doesn't really use the Rinnegan abilities all that much because they spend too much of his chakra. He's not as proficient with them as Nagato is, and Nagato was an Uzumaki with an absurd amount of chakra. So he would certainly rely more on Kamui than on the Rinnegan abilities, but this version of Obito is stronger by far than the Orange Mask.
Yeah.
When you just look at his physical capabilities, his speed, and his stamina, he is a tier above Orange Mask. Just like Edo Itachi's a tier above Alive Itachi. But
Yeah.
I would say the Rinnegan gives him a greater edge than just Itachi being Edo here.
Now, see, not to like, downplay Itachi, because I'm definitely not going to do this round. I think it's a lot more grounded in this round. But because we all agree that Edo Itachi is at least relative to KCM Naruto, in terms of speed. However, I mean, Obito was handling this same KCM Naruto plus 3 other pretty fast ninja.
And Naruto had evolved into KCM 2 in that fight, so he was actually being helped by the Nine Tails.
Yeah. And these are 4 of some of the faster shinobis in the series, by the way. So it's like, I don't know. I mean,
at the same time,
1v1, I feel like, yeah, at the same time, yeah, exactly. So I feel as though like Obito should. Now, granted, like again, with Itachi having knowledge of how Obito's Kami works, Itachi could make clones to kind of even the odds a little bit in terms of like just overall, battle. And try to get like a clone into the common dimension and do the same thing that like Kakashi was doing, just have like a clone hit the real Obito's body or wherever he tries to phase through, and so stuff like that. It could definitely be an option. I just don't think. I think that's the only option because I don't think Totsuka Blade is gonna work. I don't think Amaterasu, as much as he can spam it this time around, I still just don't think it's like landing on Obito personally.
Yeah, he would have to come up with a 200 IQ strategy to land Amaterasu or the Totsuka Blade on Obito. I guess it is possible, but certainly not easy. And Obito, he has the human path to seal Itachi, if that's the case, or just sealing him into the Kami dimension would be a problem too. Or Chibaku Tensei, I think you mentioned that before. Yeah. We don't know if Itachi would be able to destroy Chibaku Tensei by himself. It's pretty much implied that when he destroyed Nagato's, he needed Naruto and Beat's help, otherwise he wouldn't be able to with just his Yasaka beats.
I was like, he wouldn't even ask them for help if that was the case. Like,
yeah, he would probably just I'll do it, whatever.
It's like he was like, Naruto, calm down, I got this, dog. You're good. But no, like, so yeah, it's an almighty push. I mean, Obito just has so much. Again, he has more. Like I know you mentioned that he probably may not rely on the Rinnegan abilities because it takes up a lot of chakra. But in this case, he wouldn't be having the strain of controlling the Jinchuriki, so he might have more opportunities to do so. To use the Rinnegan abilities.
Yeah, sure, but even still, like when he lost the control over his tail beasts in the war, he wasn't even using the Rinnegan all that much. He only used it to summon the Geromazo into the battlefield. So I guess he's not very confident in using those abilities, or he just thinks they are not worth using because Kakashi and Naruto knew counters for it because they fought against Pain and they would spend too much of his chakra. I can see him using them here. I mean, especially if somehow Itachi lands an Amaterasu on Obito, he can just use the Praetor Path and absorb the Dark Flames. Like, why would he not do that? I don't know.
I was gonna say, no one could really make a case that Obito would not be quick enough to either absorb or Kamui through or just outright dodge an Amaterasu, personally to me. So I said Amaterasu is not going to land. I don't think Totsuka Blade's going to land either, since if Naruto's giant avatar hand wasn't quick enough to catch Obito before he phased through, I can't see Totsuka Blade doing the same thing. And then Tsukuyomi, I don't think is even gonna. Maybe you can make a case of if he's able to hit Tsukuyomi on Obito, that the added pressure of Tsukuyomi plus having to control the Rinnegan might be enough to disrupt Obito's in some way. But that's the only thing I could think of. You know what I'm saying?
Still pretty much a reach.
But, yeah, so but conversely, you have Obito being able to both suck him into Kamui and Soul Seal.
If he goes in for the suck, Itachi could keep on using the Susanoo to blast Obito away indefinitely because he has infinite chakra. So
true.
I mean, it would be a long fight, that's for sure.
I don't know. I mean, if we do it that way, then maybe Itachi can outlast Obito in terms of chakra. I don't know. That would be the thing I could make.
Itachi
that may be like
would also have to deal with the fan that Obito has. Like, he could probably use that to enhance his defenses too, but I still think Obito has the edge here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going off the rails because I'm trying to think of ways that Itachi takes it. Because I do feel like I'm kind of sleeping on him, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know, Obito's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Especially Rinnegan Obito. So yeah, I think I'd give this one to Obito also, but I think it's a lot more even than people might think. So personally to me, I would probably give this one to Obito about 6 to 7, maybe 8 out of 10
yeah,
times.
I would say 7 to 8 out of 10 times for Obito.
Yeah. I think it's a fair game for Itachi. So next one, we're gonna go Juubito versus Edo Itachi. Now, some of y'all might be head scratching, right now because of why we're even doing this version. But I love Itachi, but I have seen Itachi stands that actually believe that Itachi can beat this Obito.
Let's go play GG, bro.
Yeah, like how? Like how is that even? I don't understand. Like Obito doesn't have Kamui, but he can still fly.
And he has the sticky arms to block stuff.
Yeah. And if Naruto and Sasuke alone were having trouble, by themselves, like together, we're having trouble beating Obito and like landing a clean.
With Minato and Tobirama helping them out too.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were all expending. Like granted, like they were like most of the half of the time they were trying to like hit him. They weren't really sure like what could damage him because they didn't know like Senjutsu was the only thing that could damage him. But even still, like even after they found out, it still took him a good bit to actually land a clean, decisive blow.
I mean, and
Obito.
They only won the fight because Obito's will wavered. Like if that doesn't happen, then there's no way Obito lost that fight. And Itachi here, if Obito stabilizes, then he doesn't really have anything to deal damage against him. I guess you could see the Totsuka Blade because it's kind of an exception, an immaterial weapon. But even still, like Obito can definitely block it with truth-seeking orbs because they do have similar properties, being able to adapt to what's being thrown against them and block essentially anything. And I mean, we saw Amaterasu did nothing against Juubito at all. Like he just watched the flames and they just went away. So, and taijutsu, I mean, Itachi has a good taijutsu, but he doesn't have the level of taijutsu necessary to deal damage against Juubito.
I was like, he doesn't have the raw strength to deal like enough damage to Juubito. So it's like, yeah, like maybe you can make a case that he could be able to keep up with Juubito and like, but then like that's like rest in peace if you're fighting him close quarters, especially with that staff, because I mean, it's just going to negate Edo Tensei completely.
And he blitzed Hashirama and Tobirama and also negated Minato's blitz attempt as well with the staff. I mean, I don't really see...
I love Itachi, but like how? I don't understand.
I'll tell you how. If Itachi catches Juubito with Tsukiyomi, assuming that Tsukiyomi works and Juubito can break out of it, because he wasn't like activating his Mangekyo during the fight, he was always with his base Sharingan, so maybe that would give him a little bit of a problem breaking out of Tsukiyomi. If Itachi can make Obito relive his worst moments, seeing Rin die for 3 days straight, or even more, like 3 days not the limit, it's just what he chose to do against Kakashi in part 1. If he manages to make Obito's will waver a lot, maybe the 10 tails can override his control and explode out of him. It's a big stretch.
That's a really good argument.
It's...
I mean, but it's a really good argument. And you know what? Like, all kidding aside, that's a win that I could see Itachi pulling off. Like, that's that's almost like a lucky Kakashi kind of win. You know, like how Kakashi can, like, get a lucky win, like pull out of his butt. I could totally see, like, Itachi doing the exact same thing. Like, I could see that happening, like, for real. But that would take a lot of time to set up as going against Juubito. Like, so, and I told Daigo, like, if Obito really wanted to play it safe, he could just summon the 4 Crimson Ray formation and just summon the tree and literally just start launching tail beast bombs. And Itachi could.
What about the Yaramir?
Yeah, what about the Yaramir? Like, I love that the mirror. I love that people can bring it up so much, but like, in all honesty, I really do. But anybody who has awareness of direction should know that like 4 tail beast bombs from all sides. Yeah, one of them's getting through at the very least. So
I mean, yeah, the damage it dealt against the 6 Crimson Ray formation, they got all twisted and deformed. They exploded. Like, it was gonna explode the sun from every single direction. Like, he would essentially be disintegrated.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. I feel like I'm actually like making fun of Itachi, and I really don't want to get that impression. But yeah, Juubito takes this one about 8, 9 out of 10. I think I'm being generous.
I would say 10 out of 10. Like, Itachi doesn't win this.
Yeah.
Fight.
Yeah. So, so now we're gonna go on to like a little funny ender for y'all. Who do you think wins against Kid Obito versus Kid Itachi? I think this one's actually pretty solid. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know about you, Daigo. I think this one's...
I don't know, man. Obito has the fireball jutsu, and
yeah,
is it before or after he awakens the Sharingan? Because that might make a difference.
I don't even want to know what Itachi does to Obito before the Sharingan.
I think 7-year-old Itachi beats freshly awakened Sharingan Obito without much difficulty.
I think you're right. I don't want to sleep on Obito, but yeah, I mean, he's still kind of a klutz at this point. I mean, if we take the filler, like, no joke, if we take the filler episodes like into account, then Obito does seem kind of competent, but not. I mean,
he was a Chunin, like, he wasn't a complete dunce or anything, but
yeah,
Itachi was just a different type of prodigy. Oh.
Yeah, like, maybe Obito can kill him with kindness.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, yeah, I mean, honestly. So, so yeah, there y'all have it. Obito versus Itachi. Thank you, Daigo Knight, for being on the channel with me again.
Thanks for having me.
Let us know what y'all think in the comments. Let us know if we were giving too much credit to either one of these battles that we did. I really hope I didn't come off as an Obito tard or an Itachi hater, because I love both these characters. I'm not going to say which one I love more. I think y'all probably should already know this one, but anyway, again, thank y'all for watching the video. Let us know in the comments what y'all think. Like the video if you haven't. Subscribe to Daigo Knight's channel if you haven't already, although I think that's unlikely. Yeah. I'm pretty sure y'all already are. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Again, like the video if you haven't already, and until my next one, like the snow.